going to learn today a little bit about to be an effective leader, you have to be able to manage conflict. What you're currently doing there that I handed out is to find out what type of a leader you are. So throughout this presentation, as you total up, the highest number on the bottom, I want you to circle. And if there's a tie, you can circle them both. But as we go through this, you'll see what the letters on the bottom actually stand for, and you'll have an idea a little bit of what type of leader you are personally. First, to see what type of leader you are if you're going to be an effective leader. People, are going to look at you as leaders, and if you don't understand how you're wired and how you're perceived, you won't be able to be the type of leader that you want to be. So again, we're going to find out a little bit about how you are. So the first is a turtle. Turtle's a withdrawing. If you think of it as going back into its shell, this is a type of leadership. They really give up their own personal goals for the other person. So this is the type of leader on the first part on a W. If you're a W and you circled that W, that's what that stands for. So as you go through this presentation, you'll kind of see that there is some method to my madness as far as why I put that there. They don't feel that they do feel it's hopeless to try and resolve a conflict. So again, they withdraw from it. And because of this, they feel it's easier to withdraw rather than face the conflict head on. So in the end, there's no winners and there's no losers in this type of a turtle leader. Okay? So we got the shark. And this is a forcing type of leader. Anybody watch House? You seen House? I love House. Well, Hugh Laurie on House, this is who he reminds me of. Okay? So goals are definitely of great importance. Not really too worried about relationships. You think about House, if you've seen it, he steps on everybody. They don't really care if they're alike, and it's all about I win, you lose. Okay, so that's one reason I like to watch House, just to see what he's going to do next. All of these, and I'll touch it a little bit later, all of these, there's not a right and a wrong. So I don't want you to look and say, well, that's the type of leader I am as far as this paper says. So you can be a combination, all of them. You can be a combination at any given situation. It can change. So sometimes it might be good to be a turtle. Sometimes it might be good to be a shark. Okay? But I win, you lose. Who's the teddy bear? I said I wouldn't. They're the smoothie. Definitely relationships are great importance and little importance to the goals. They really feel that they should avoid that conflict. Okay, so there might be situations that you are in a leadership role and it's just wise or better to avoid that conflict instead of taking it head on like a shark would, because you want harmony overall. Okay? So you're going to be a teddy bear in that case. So they're going to give up their own goals. It's you win and I lose. So a teddy bear is the opposite of a shark. A fox. They're somewhat concerned with their own goals, and they're somewhat concerned, so they're with others. They're the compromise in between the two. Okay? So if you're a fox, you're going to seek that compromise, and you're going to give up some of your goals, and you try and seek a solution or a conflict to find the middle ground. It's not a win or lose, it's you bend, I bend. Okay? So, as you're thinking through these, you might think this is the type of leader I want to be, or that's the type of leader I want to be. I probably fall more into a fox than anything else. I tied on a couple of those when I took the test. I would rather, in most instances, you walk away and say, well, I got a little something out of it, he got a little something out of it, we both won. Okay? But if you talk to the people that report to me, I'm a shark sometimes, I'm a teddy bear sometimes. But that's kind of middle of the road to be a fox. Next is the owl. So So here we're looking at a high value of goals and relationships. All right. So an owl is going to try and do everything they can to have both happen. And conflicts are really just problems that haven't been solved yet. So they're going to try and meet their goals. They're going to try and make sure that you meet your goals. It's the I win and you win situation. So you hear in the corporate world the win-win situation. This is what an owl strives for. Now, most of the things that I deal with, it's very difficult to get a perfect win-win. But again, if it's your style and that's the way you do things, that's your first thought of what you're trying to do. So of the 5, again, I'm probably more of a fox personally. I wanted you to do that so that you would understand a little bit what type of animal that you are as far as when it comes to a leader. As long as you understand all of them that are out there, you don't have to be one on any given time. They can all be a possibility. Okay? It's not just about the personalities, so it's not just about the type of leader you are. You can be any of those type of leaders, and if the message isn't delivered properly, it can be a problem. Okay? You've all maybe had some professors or you've worked for somebody before, and they may have been a shark or a teddy bear, but the way they delivered a message to you didn't come out the way they probably intended it, and you weren't necessarily happy with the result. So you don't want to blindside them. You want to deliver it in person. Okay? I'm not going to email somebody or call them if it's a very important message that I want to give them. Okay? You all probably received an email or a text and you went, what are they saying to me? You took it completely a different way than what they meant to say. Okay? Does that happen? Happens to me too often, so I pick up the phone and call. You want to find a place, if you had a problem with a professor or another student, you're not going to do it in the hallway or right in front of where a lot of people are. You want to get away from an area of a lot of people, and you want to give them a warning. I'd never thought about this until a few years ago. As an optometrist, it was just patient, patient, patient. That's who I dealt with. I didn't have to deal with, too many people that were considered, subordinates that answered to me. But when I heard this, it really made sense that, hey, if I had to talk to you about something, what if I gave you a little heads up? Could we meet at, say, 4:30? Does that work for you? I've got a little something I need to talk to you about, and it maybe relates to this. And, that hit me like, well, yeah, I would like people to do that for me. So it's something to think about as you're in your groups. You've already proven to me that you're leaders in this room. So how to go about being a leader is what I'd like to give you a little bit of insight on. And this was a big one to me. Something I hadn't really thought about, but how to talk to somebody. Set it up a little bit. Really, any type of emotion is not great when you're dealing with a subordinate or even, to each other. You just want to stick with the facts. You don't want to walk in there. You can be a little nervous. You might be a little nervous walking in. I've got to talk to this individual about this. But try and leave your emotions at the door. Okay? It's stick with the facts. Don't stick with, I heard or he said, she said type of things. Just straight through. That'll be something that is very effective. You do want to use what I call agreeable terminology. When you say something, if you say it in a way that you understand, is very helpful. Like I'll go through my head a little bit and say how I'm going to say it to somebody. Not every situation, but if it's a really big thing. So you want to use that agreeable terminology. It conveys the message a little bit better. When you use these, this is the key to me to true leadership and getting your message across. Because as you deal with other schools, if you're in, say, APHA or whatever you're in, and you're dealing with other schools' leaders, if you will really try and make sure that you say, I agree, I understand, those type of things will get them more comfortable, and they'll listen to your side a little bit better. So as you're listening to them, and you're going to probably go over even more of this in these classes that you have, and I'll cover it a little bit here, but you want to look them in the eye. You want to have your words say that you really understand what they're talking about and that you heard them. Okay? So if you stick with these, the I appreciate, I love it when people are talking to me and, they really tell me that, yeah, I understand what you're saying, or, even maybe repeat themselves back to me that they understand it. It's going to show that you care. And if you show that you care, the people that you are leading will trust you a lot more. Being a good leader is a lot about trust, to be able to get the people to follow. Try not to use the word you. If someone's pointing at you and, I go back to my parents on this. If they're, hounding me on something when I was growing up and wherever in my face, I was not going to listen. My parents weren't like that very often, so it worked out good. But it's going to shut people off right away. And it doesn't matter if you are in a position of leadership. If you continue to just berate them, they're not going to listen to you. Okay? Having kids myself, I've found that this doesn't work at all. I definitely use these things on my children in a positive way, the positive side, so that I can get through to them. It's not going to work if you attack them. It does sound accusatory. So, this is what you want to use. Start off your sentences with, I feel, I understand. My first psychology class was here at Drake. I learned a lot of that. It's something that, again, I didn't necessarily think about it. A lot of times you get into your own life and this is what I want, this is how I want to get it done. But you need to step back in most instances and start thinking, how do I look to those people? Okay? So again, if you are talking to them and you're listening to them and you say, I feel or I understand, it's going to be a lot better. They're going to listen back to you as well. Does anybody know what mirror and matching is? Got an idea?
Yeah, and match what you're saying with the actions that you're also carrying out.
Yep. And the mirror part, if you're talking to somebody, and they're standing there like this, and if you kind of stood there like that a little bit, they feel you're part of the conversation. Okay, so that's the mirror part of what you said about the matching. Very good. Body language is just huge when you're trying to convey a message. Your tone of voice, posture. The bottom is what really gets me a lot. 7% of what you say people will get. 38% is how you say it, and 55% is from your body language. Okay? So that's where text doesn't work a lot of times because they're only getting 7%. The 55%, it could be a very negative. I could be standing here like talking to you guys like this. My message isn't going to come across very good. Okay? So that's what I want you to think about when you're sending emails, when you're sending text. Read that email a third time before you send it. Okay? Look at it. How would the other person take that? There's so many times that I hit delete and just either pick up the phone or write a whole new email. So it's something I want you to think about before you do that, is really that bottom one. Look them in the eyes part. Being an optometrist, that's not a problem for me. I tend to look everybody in the eyes, and sometimes it's like talking to your dentist when they're looking at your teeth or something like that. I get a little self-conscious when I see my dentist outside of his office. But it's very important. If you don't look like you're interested in what someone has to say and you're looking them in the eyes, the worst, I think, to me is if I'm standing, someone's in front of me and the door is back over there and someone's always looking around me to see who's coming in the door. You need to be aware of those situations. Try and put yourself, if your back's to the door, try and move so that you're not. But definitely look them in the eyes, tell them what you say, and have your body language really say it. You know, you look at this gentleman, he's smiling and all that, but that shows that his body language isn't very happy, so his message is going to come across that way. 55% of what they get from his message is going to be negative. Okay? Part of only being an active listener, you want to be there. Okay, that's in the conversation. If I'm talking to you, and again, your eyes are floating off, or your body language doesn't show, you will not be an effective leader because you have to show that you're interested. Now, if I'm a shark, I may have trouble being there sometimes because I'm thinking about how can I win. Okay, so you can't always be a shark. That's why I said you should always be maybe a few of them. It goes for every one of them, but definitely I think the sharks have to watch themselves a little bit on this one. You have to be there in the conversation. So you'll get a lot more of this when you read Fish. I think it'll make sense to you. It's a really good thought. When you get into, and I hear mostly from students, when I interview them, it's great to have that repeat back. If I say something or ask you a question when you're in an interview with me and you don't completely understand it, or even if you do understand it, you just want to make sure that you understand it, it's okay to repeat that back to the person. Okay? It's better to be on the same page in answering the question that was really asked than have it different. Okay? All right. That's the conflict management part. The real key takeaways, I think, are knowing what type of an animal that you are. Okay? If you know that ahead of time, then you'll kind of see what people perceive you as. It's really nice to think of the person that you're talking to. So if you think this is a shark, okay? I don't want to pick on the sharks, in here, because I have some of that in me too. But if you know you're dealing with a shark, and it's something you really want to happen, that you need to get your point across, it's good to know that they're a shark. Use the I agrees, I understand, and then you can get your out there. Maybe you can turn them in that instance from a shark into something else. We're going to go into time management. So we're switching gears. We're still leaders here, okay? So always this whole thing, you are the leader. So this is from a leader's point of view. But time wasters typically is the problem. When you think of time management, it wouldn't be a problem if you had all the time in the world and there was no time wasted. So I went in more to the time wasting part. That can be external or internal. But these are what I think are some of the external ones, okay? I'll let you look at that for just a second. My freshman in college, I dealt with the bottom right here a little more with socializing. But all of these can be, and there's many others, and there might be some of your own. But I want you guys to think a little bit, what are your greatest external time wasters? Okay? You have to think, for myself, what is it that's keeping me from getting things done? Okay? So we'll go over the internal ones in a little bit as well, but think first of the external, because you can't always control those. Those are things that can come from the outside in. So you want to think of those, and then you want to think, how can I deal with those to make best management of my time? The attitude that Jenny was talking about earlier, and I was listening a little bit, I definitely think that's a gigantic internal time waster. If you start out the day, and again, that's part of Fish too, so I will talk about that a little bit, but if you start out the day with a poor attitude, that's probably how your day is going to be. It's going to be a poor day overall. You're not going to be probably a very effective leader at that point. Everybody that deals with you throughout that day is going to say, well, I think you said crabby or something you said earlier. If you wake up crabby and you stay crabby and decide my day is going to be all about crabbiness, that's what everybody else is going to get too. So Attitude, I think we do choose our attitude every single day. We choose it multiple times throughout the day. You might get a bad message from somebody and it puts you in a bad mood, but then you've got to go into a meeting where you are giving the positive things of everything that just happened for the last quarter. Okay? Before you walk into that meeting, you have to choose your attitude because you want to be positive about it. So procrastination, think about yourself. Why do I put something off? A few of the main ones are here. Probably my biggest one, if I'm going to procrastinate, is because I just don't like the task. There's some reason that's not getting me excited about that to jump in and take over that task. So you may have a few others than these. You're not interested. You just have trouble getting started. But you got to look at procrastination. When I talk to most college students, I tell them, high school, seemed kind of hard at the time, to some of us. College seemed, that was pretty hard. And then I got to graduate school and went, oh my gosh, that was not nearly as hard as what I'm in right now. But I learned time management as I went on. I got better at it. So if you get really good at it now, and you lay out your day and you know what's going to happen, everything's going to be easy. So I may be older, but I'm not so old I don't remember what it was like to sit in that chair. Those are the type of things that I really want you to take away from today. Get calendars, write lists, put things on paper, and then just dive in and get it started sometimes. Quit procrastinating. So again, some of the things you can do, definitely set a deadline. I like the third one. I give myself rewards whenever possible. If I finish this, I'm going golfing, or something. Not today. To break down the jobs into small pieces helps sometimes. Sometimes it's a large job that you think, oh, okay, I could compartmentalize this a little bit, make it 3 smaller jobs than one big one, but I'll get it done that way. The arrange for follow-up part, that has helped me because I will get someone else involved in the process. So I'm going to arrange for the follow-up with somebody that's going to motivate me because they're going to call me or I'm going to call them to talk about something I have to be ready for. Okay? You get into the corporate world, or it happens all the way through life, if you don't follow up with what you're supposed to, negative consequences are going to come. And you as the leader, that looks poorly on your organization. So you always want to be on top of your game when it comes to that. So that helps me. To do it now, sometimes I just have to sit down and say, Chad, just do it. Okay? It's unpleasant. You don't like it. Someone else gave you a deadline that wasn't yours, but you just have to get it done. The taking on too much, we probably all do this, especially if you've got to where you are right now, you've taken on a lot of things, you've proven that you can do them, you've got here, but it can be tough. I can't juggle very well, so I have to decide, and I've got to ask myself these questions. What else am I taking on? Can I do that? Is it realistic? Will there be negative consequences when I'm done? But what are the deadlines? How much time will it take? To me, what's going to suffer if I take on something else? If I take on a job that's really hard, am I going to have 2, 3 other things that are important suffer from that? So I found, again, as I got promoted into this new position, since I have the Eastern United States, I've got to know what all of those people are doing. So if I say yes to one thing, it may affect 2 other people. So you have to think ahead as a good leader and know the big picture. I'm trying to get better at these all the time. Some of us are good at some things. Some of us have opportunities to do better. And so the planning each day part I've gotten pretty good at. In my day, I never know exactly how it's going to go. So the plan for my day is to plan for things to change. But to be ready for those changes and take them. I'm a big list maker. I like to write things out. See, this is what I want to get done today. I've learned over time that some of those will move on to the next day's list, and that's okay. But I find I get a lot more done if I plan that day out, and I know, okay, I've got 10 things that I really want to get done. All right, well, I got 8 done. That was a good day. 80% I'll take. I'll move those other 2. They're the top for the next day. Or they might get moved down depending on what's going to happen the next day. But plan it out. It's going to help a lot. The next one is probably my biggest challenge because my mom got me a thing for my room when I was little that said geniuses are rarely tidy. You walked into my room and, yeah, there's stuff everywhere. But I knew where it was, you know. But if you do organize your area, you're going to be much better off in the long run. You'll know where things are. The prioritization part, that's what I do when I plan my day, so that has a lot to do with number 1. I prioritize because my important things are on top of my mind, and I write them first on the top of my list. But you don't want to put on your priority list, one of the most important things at the very bottom, and it hits 4 o'clock and you haven't touched it yet. Okay? So all of these are good things to keep in mind. This is a lot about, again, I jumped ahead a little bit. I believe so much in the attitude. Start each day with that commitment. It's your own personal commitment, whatever you feel is important. If you do not, the support person is willing to ask for support. That's the delegation part. If you don't ask for support, you're not going to get it. And there's just most of the time, rarely, do you walk around and say, hey, can I help you with that? It might happen once in a while, but it's not going to happen to all of us every day. So you have to ask for that support if you need it. Okay? Definitely, your professors are there to help, other students, but as a leader, you want to be there for people, but you've got to find out that you can't do every single thing. So delegate out, get that taken care of, you'll be a lot more successful. It's very hard sometimes to identify our weaknesses. Everybody doesn't necessarily want to think that they have certain weaknesses, or something might not seem like a weakness to you, but if you can identify it, there's some books out there, there's some things that you can look at to identify your strengths and your weaknesses. But if you can find out what they are, that will help you as well. You can avoid that perfectionism. And if you shoot for perfectionism, that's great, but as long as you understand that very rarely are we going to be perfect, that's okay. So failure is certainly part of being a good leader, learning from your mistakes. You want to shoot for the perfectionism, but again, don't in your mind worry if you don't hit it every time. Write down just 2 what you think is your internal time wasters. Or think about it, write it down, take it home with you, and look at it every once in a while. And that will help you combat those internal time wasters. The discontinue low priority tasks, to me, that falls also a little bit into the delegating. I want to be more efficient at what I do, so if I discontinue some of those lower tasks or give them to somebody else, or maybe they're just not quite as important, it's going to make my day go better. I'm still going to make sure that those things get done. But again, these are a few things that you can do. If you, again, want to be a successful leader, you've got to learn to delegate. Appropriate delegation can make all the difference in the world. You don't want to sit there and your people think that you don't do anything because you delegate everything to them. But as long as you are an effective leader and you're telling them and talking to them about what you are doing, I think you did it really well by telling them that they could do something. I thought that was great. So I was eavesdropping on you back there a little bit. That's going to get people. You make people feel better about themselves. They're going to be better at it. But they realize you're doing some stuff, I'm doing some stuff. It's all for the greater good. That delegation will pay off in the end. So give yourself some time. I like this quite a bit. To troubleshoot, identify priorities, manage information, effectively communicate. These are the things that we've been talking about through this presentation. But if you think of that acronym and think of the time and give yourself some time, it's going to, again, make you an effective leader. There's all kinds of leaders out there. They do it all kinds of different ways. Not all of them are what we would call effective. But you want to be the effective leader. So you want the people below you to believe in you and to follow you. Again, that's why you have a leader, is because you have people following them in the direction. So this will help you quite a bit. So one man gets nothing but discord out of a piano. Another gets harmony. No one claims the piano is at fault. Life is pretty much about the same. The discord is there. The harmony is there. You study to play it correctly, and it will give forth the beauty. Unknown. Don't know who said it, but, I give them all kinds of credit. If you go about something and someone else goes about something that the same task, two very different results come out of it, why was that? It happens all the time. You all study very hard for the same test, and somebody gets a better grade than another. That happens. Life in general, it'll happen. But to me, what this really means, again, the piano is not at fault. The piano is the same. It's how we go about it. How did you choose your attitude that day? How did you choose to talk to somebody that day? How did you choose to plan your day? So all of these things that I've been talking about today leads you to the end result. And hopefully that's harmony.